ask you a couple of questions. What if? What if there was a revolution going on right now in the business world, globally, that is so profound, it makes the internet revolution look like a blip on the radar? What if this revolution has such devastating implications, from layoffs to being bought by bigger companies, that it's got the biggest industry giants in the world shaking in their boots? Last question. What if I told you and could prove that this revolution, just like the quality revolution from the 70s, will not be led by generals? It will be led by foot soldiers who innovate and set an influential example that changes their company. Consider the following story. At about 11 a.m., August 29, 2005, Walmart co-manager Jessica Lewis gets into her car and drives to her store. It's Waveland, Mississippi. Katrina has pounded Waveland that day, and she fears the worst for the store. When she arrives, her worst fears are confirmed. The roof caved in. The store was torn up. Aisles were ransacked. Refrigerators knocked over. Almost, in her mind, 6 inches to a foot of water in the store. She couldn't even make her way past the greeting area. But as bad as that scene was, what was really on her mind was the scene out at Highway 90. On Highway 90, hundreds of people were walking around in their pajamas, their underwear, some barefoot, bloodied, crying, didn't even have a chance to grab stuff when they left the house to go to the shelters, and now they were lost. Not only lost in terms of what had happened that night, but that feeling you have in a tragedy. And she says later, when she looked out to Highway 90, she saw her kids' teachers, her friends, her neighbors, her customers. And so she did the only thing you do in a situation like that. She innovated. She picked up her cell phone. She called her brother-in-law, who owned a bulldozer, and had him come over immediately and bulldoze a path to the back of the store where the dry goods were safe up high. You know, diapers, foods, meats, crackers, those types of things. With her crowbar, she broke into a locked pharmacy to get to the insulin. She was not reprimanded. She was not fired. She was recognized. Because she's what I call a saver soldier. She's a person that uses work as a platform to change the world whenever possible. CEO Lee Scott, who I've had some time with, he was moved when he heard this story a few days later, along with dozens of other stories about courageous Walmart employees from New Orleans to here in Houston, who did what they could, sometimes with, sometimes without permission. When Lee Scott gave his historic sustainability speech in October, just 60 days later, here's what he said. He said, when we saw Katrina, we saw suffering, we saw tears, we saw losses, we saw a tragedy, but we also saw the potential of what Walmart can be. He wondered out loud, what would it take for us to be that company every day that we were on August 29th? And he announced a bold initiative. The initiative was a sustainability initiative like we've never seen before. He also announced that all 60,000 of their suppliers immediately had to shrink packaging by 40% or lose distribution, and he shocked the world. He trimmed back transportation emissions by 25% in the first 2 years. It was a grand plan, and here's why. Lee saw a storm coming several years earlier. Way back in 2003, he saw the storm coming, not Katrina, the responsibility revolution.
Tim Sanders wants to get your audience excited about corporate social responsibility and sustainability. His message to leaders, managers, sales, and staff is, help your company help the world. Why? Companies that nurture people, communities, and planet will have stronger brands, better sales, and healthier bottom lines.
And as it goes on, you've got everything from Katrina to the inconvenient truth, reinforcing over and over again the urgency of the emergency, and people have changed. Have you noticed this? Have you noticed that people over the last few years have become amazingly involved in everything from community to how people are treated at work to the environment? Here's the research. Now, when I was running the think tank with Stanford at Yahoo, we saw this back in 2002. Now, brand marketing is the first place you always see a revolution coming. Now, in the old days, like for the last 2 decades, a brand's most important attribute was that it was different. Differentiation, number one, right? Number 2 was it was relevant, meaning it solved a problem that people cared about. Number 3 on the list was awareness. People know who you are. And finally, number 4 in the gutter was your social reputation. Made very little difference. We've been studying the power of a company's social reputation on its brand. And did you know the power of reputation has grown more since 2002 than computing power on a percentage basis? It is going to be the future of your brand. Are you a partner or are you a parasite? 8 out of 10 college students today, according to BBDO, are spending an hour researching online companies' social reputations. I call it the Facebook generation. Who in this room is either on Facebook or has a friend or relative on Facebook? Raise your hand. Let's take a look around this room. And I got to tell you something. Your company better be Facebook worthy, because kids will not take a job at a place they're ashamed to put on their Facebook profile page. And all of a sudden, the rules are changing quickly for talent acquisition. The social compensation plan, that's what Timberland, the shoemaker, calls it. The social comp plan. What kind of purpose do I get with my paycheck will be the tiebreaker in the future.
Tim Sanders is the author of the New York Times bestseller, Love is the Killer App, How to Win Business and Influence Friends. It was also a bestseller in Brazil, India, Italy, and Norway. Saving the World at Work will be released in fall 2008 in North America with a national media tour. He has deep business experience, most recently where he was the Chief Solutions Officer and Leadership Coach at Yahoo. He's one of the most sought-after speakers in America because of his delivery, as well as his preparation. For each talk, he consults with meeting professionals and executives to craft a customized talk. In this case, a talk that will increase participation, innovation, and discussion about social responsibility and green business practices.
A lot of organizations pick a cause. Kenneth Lay had a cause at Enron. He loved the opera. He liked to go to the opera. The opera wasn't connected to the business. It was the first thing cut when the business turned down. It made no sense to the employees. It wasn't sustainable. A high-purpose company picks a cause that is so critical to the success and the future of the business would fall apart if they stopped doing it. Inside organizations, what I want you to ask yourself is, how can we pick a cause that affects the business? Whether it's a cause that affects the health of the employees, whether it's a cause that reconnects us with the community and the host communities that make our business possible, or whether it is a cause that connects everybody together, for example, to save the planet. Whatever you do, though, I want you to think of it this way. There is an intersection between your business and society. And the new cutting edge of business is that intersection.
Tim Sanders will add energy to your event. It's likely that many of your attendees already know about his work. He was featured on the Today Show in May of 2005. In addition, Tim has recently appeared on numerous national and local TV networks, including CNBC, Fox News Channel, and CNN, as well as being featured in Time Magazine, Fast Company, Forbes Small Business, USA Today, The New York Times, and countless industry and internet newsletters and blogs. He's frequently featured because he brings personality and excitement to business subjects. His sense of humor is infectious and will lift the spirits of your group at the same time it challenges them to rethink their business habits.
So, Harris Interactive did a survey last year that asked thousands of people what makes a company responsible. You might be surprised to find out the number one thing the average person looks for is how employees are treated, and its reputation as an employer. I've gone out and participated with Pitney Bowes in the biggest study ever done on email etiquette. And did you know that when people get 2 in the morning emails from you, or 15 emails on their Saturday day off, there is a statistical probability that they will log on to Monster.com or Hot Jobs and post their resume. And you will certainly invade what we call the healing process. The healing process is when they're not at work. They go home, they heal. And for some of you folks, come on, you got to stop these late night emails. I call it sipping and sending. It's the business version of drinking and dialing. But what does it do, we found in the research? It causes that employee to feel guilty when she wants to go home and have dinner with her kids the next night at 7 because the boss is working 24/7. So give your people a break. We've also learned that if you start sending late night emails, behavior changes and people start to check their email at home. Not good for relationships, but even worse for sleep patterns. You start getting disturbing emails from somebody at 10 or 11 at night and you learn to check that late right before you go to bed, you're going to come down with something I call late night math. You know what I'm talking. Late night math is when you laying in bed and you can't stop thinking because work is on your mind. And so what you do is you look over at that LED clock next to your head and you start to do the following mathematical calculations, don't you? You go, it's 2:08 in the morning. If I fall asleep in the next 7 minutes, I will still get 3 hours and 45 minutes of sleep. So quality of life is not just attaboy, but that compassion for people that spreads and creates a great company to work for.
Your passionate delivery on how to save the world at work really resonated with our community. And the opening general session will undoubtedly be one of our highest rated yet. If there were a scorecard for meeting planners to complete, I would rate you as one of the best speakers I've ever had the pleasure to work with.
My opening line was going to be, what a powerful and inspiring message, but I think this standing ovation says exactly that.